Hey everybody, Dustin here from Retro Supply. So yesterday we released a brand new font called Comrade, which is inspired by constructivist design and communist posters, that whole feel. And I want to give huge props to Scott Fuller from the Studio Temporary, who designed this font for Retro Supply. And I just want to show you an example of how you could use it in a piece of work. In this piece, you can see we've kind of adopted that style of communist propaganda constructivist poster, and we've just put a fun and positive spin on it. So this is the Alliance of Fist Bump Brothers. Let me show you basically how I did this. So the first thing I did is I gathered up some inspiration, and I did that by making a really simple Pinterest board here. So if you go to my Pinterest account here, I've just made a constructivist poster inspiration board, and I just got a handful of different things, and I just borrowed, different concepts that I saw from these. So, I was heavily inspired by these colors. Obviously, there's a lot of fists. There's a lot of geometric shapes and overlays of colors. So I just used that, and to be totally honest with you, it took a long time. Even though this is simple, it took a long time to get this to kind of balance out right where I felt like it looked pretty cool. So let's start this from the beginning, and I'll show you exactly how to make it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. So new, and then this is a pretty standard poster size. It's 18 by 24 inches, and I'm doing a 300 resolution RGB. And of course, if you actually want to get this printed or whatever, you can change the color mode at the end to CMYK or whatever else. So press OK. And here we are with our blank canvas. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to add our fists in. Now, I got my fists from a site called bigstock.com. It's a subscription site. I think it costs about $69 a month or something like that. So you can find a fist there, or you can Google search for fists and look for public domain ones. There's all sorts of ways you can get one. You can photograph one yourself, photograph your own fist. So anyways, first we're going to place the fists in. Go here and go to downloads, and I've got one that I'll place right here. And I'm going to bring that down here and just place it in. And then I'm going to place my fist bump, which I also found. And I'll put that about right there. So the first thing I'm going to want to do to these fists is desaturate them, but I want to do it in a non-destructive way. So I'm going to get this set of fists, and I'm going to choose from adjustment layers black and white. And then I'm going to go to layer, create clipping mask, and what that does is it just makes sure that it only applies this black and white adjustment to this single layer below it. And then I'm going to tweak with my colors to get a good contrast going. So I'm going to increase the reds and the yellows, which is primarily what this skin tone has in it. So you can see if you do greens or something, you don't get much. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Do a black and white layer. Go to layer, create clipping mask, and again, just kind of tweak. Get these where I like them. Sweet. And then to keep this organized, let's make a folder for this. So I'll just call it fists. And we'll bring those into it. There we go. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to add a background layer. So I've sampled the color, but I'll show you how I'm sampling. So I can go here, kind of pick this color with this color picker I have. And I believe this is just called Color Picker 2. Or I'm sorry, it's called Color Snapper, and this is the Color Snapper 2. Super useful. I use this all the time. Highly recommend you pick it up. It's just a quick way to get colors that you find on the web or different places and choose them. So I'm just going to go here, and as you can see, really easy to use. So I click on this. It lets me choose what kind of value I want. I'm just going to choose a hex, and we'll go back to our work here. And then I'm going to go to solid color. Paste that in there. Press OK. Now you'll notice you can't see all of the color because the white backgrounds of the fists are blocking it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off that color for a second, and then we're going to go down And we're going to create a mask so we don't see the background white. So on this top one, I'll select that. And then we're selecting the outside of the white. So I'm going to go to select inverse, add layer mask. And I'm going to do the exact same thing to this one. So go down here, select this, select inverse, add layer mask. Okay, now if I did this how I think I did, perfect. So now you can see we have the fists isolated on top of this color here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the font to the top. And this is using our new Comrade font. Now you can get a great deal on this right now. We're offering it for just $5. So, go grab it right now. It's $5. That's a promo price. It retails for $15, so highly recommend you do that. I'll leave obviously a link so you can go grab that. Or of course you can search around the web and see if you can find a free kind of communist inspired font, but this one's pretty cool because it has inline and a solid version, so you can do more with it. So we'll get our text tool, get text here, and have Comrade regular selected. I'll just type Alliance, I can't even remember what I said. Alliance of Fist Bump Brothers, that's right. This is pretty small, so we'll zoom in. Alliance of Fist Bump, and then we will make this larger. Sweet, and then I'm just going to duplicate this and drag it down here and type out brothers. And then check this out, it's pretty cool. So I can go to the regular and I can choose inline, and bam, I got an inline version. And I'll adjust the size of this. And if you're wondering how I'm doing the size changes, I've macroed on my keyboard to adjust sizes because I just do it a lot. But if you don't have it macroed, or if you're wondering how is he resizing this, I'm just going to, what am I going to? Transform scale is what I'm doing. You can see I have it macroed here. Okay, so now let's add some colors to this font. So what did I do here? Okay, so I did a black and a red. So once again, we can just sample. I have them here, but I'll sample just to show you. So we sample that. Okay. Color. Actually, I'm not going to sample that one because I want to use a blending mode on it. And if I sample it, it's not going to be the actual true color I'm starting with. So I select this text and I'll open up my text box here. Add red. Okay, so that's cool, right? But here's what's really cool. And you will see why this is cool even more as we move through this. So I'm going to go down to linear burn. Linear burn tends to give you just kind of this more saturated, great mixing of colors, and I just love that. So yeah, I'm using that. And then Alliance of Fist Bump, I'm going to do that just in black. And once again, I'm getting these color inspiration ideas from looking at all these posters. You see a lot of the same thing. A lot of them are more muted, but I like this more intensely colored one. Alliance of Fist Bump Brothers, sweet. Okay, so we'll come look at this again. And then we're going to add this sort of the shapes in here now. So I'm going to add in this shape and then the arrows. So to create this shape, I just get the rectangle tool, select my color again. Make sure that's the color that I'm using. So I think that should make it so I'm using that color, and then kind of see how did I do that. So I made that sort of steps going on here. So red, and then I made like a lower one down right here, and then a lower one here, and then we have 3 different layers, and I'm just going to select them all, right click, and then I'm going to merge shapes. So now these are just one single layer. Okay, so here's a cool part that I love. Now check out when I changed the blending mode to linear burn here. It looks awesome. Bam. Okay, so we have that there. And then I'm going to add 2 arrows right here coming in from the sides. Now, I feel more comfortable making the arrows in Illustrator. So I'm going to go to Illustrator here, and you can see I have an arrow. So I'm just going to literally copy it and paste it in. Flip one going this direction. And then I'm rotating this, and I've macroed this again, so I can rotate it. But if you don't have it macroed, you can go to Edit, Transform, Rotate. Okay, and once again, I want these to be on linear burn, so we get that intermingling play between the background orangish yellow and the actual red. Nice. And then let's do some naming here, make sure we keep things organized. So we'll call this right arrow. We'll call this left arrow. Of course, we always want to use descriptive layer titles whenever we can, so we know what we're looking at. And more importantly, if you have other people working on the file so they know what they're looking at, we'll call this bottom red bar. Okay, awesome. So this is looking pretty solid. And then we have some text that I put. Now, something you'll notice about constructivist and propaganda poster design is that there's a lot of very obvious geometric shapes going on and angular lines. So everything so far has been basically horizontal. So I had thrown in some text that's going sideways here. So how I do that, we just get some text, get our text tool, I should say, up the size a little bit so we can read what we're saying. And then we'll just put the text in, so we're saying the fist bump brother having issues here. Brother Creed. Right, so that's one. And then we'll do another line. Oops, I have this centered. I actually don't want this centered. I want it left aligned. So fist bump brother Creed. I think I had like don't leave a bro hanging. What else did I have? Use explosions. And by explosions, I mean like, you know, when you do a fist bump and like you open your hand after you do it. I didn't mean like literal explosions. Use explosions, master the basic bump first. So go use explosions, master the basic bump first. And then we had one more. What was it? Knuckle bruising is forbidden. Don't you love how I'm like cracking my own self up? Okay, so master knuckle bruising is forbidden. Okay, we've got our text, and I'm not sure if I like the line height. I'm thinking I'm going to make the line height a little tighter, kind of like we have in the example. So I'll just select this all, and then under auto, go here, and we're adjusting the line height. So as you can see, I'm kind of like manually doing this here, and this might actually change once I do the actual font size. And then again, we're just rotating this. So I'm using my macro here, and that looks pretty good. And then we are going to add a red block to go right here. So I'll make that like, it's probably pretty good. And then of course, zoom in for a second. A little more, and then we're just going to kind of rotate and try to get it to line up well here. Now here's the beauty of retro work in general, and especially something like this. You don't have to remember angles and do it, because when they were doing this back in the day, they were cutting stuff out and they were putting it on and doing it by eye, you know, using rulers and stuff, but they weren't like most likely most of the time having perfect angles. So if something's not perfectly aligned in terms of angle dimensions, I think that adds just more authenticity to it. Set it to linear burn. Again, we'll name this, we'll call this text bar The fist pump brother key we'll just name that Creed text. And then let's make some folders here to keep this organized. So we'll make a folder called text, put the Creed text in it. All right, there we go, keeping it organized. Okay, so we've actually made a lot of progress. We're almost done. So at the bottom here, I'm just going to write out a public service announcement from Retro Supply. Move that down here, and then I'm going to play with the color. I'm going to make it white because I want it to stand out. I'm going to increase the tracking. Expected to be able to see it as I did it, but it's not happening. So then we're just kind of moving this to the center here. I'm going to adjust the size, make it a little bit smaller. And again, see how I'm doing a lot of this manually? I personally like doing things manually like this. I feel like I feel more comfortable using my eye as I'm doing it. And I feel like it adds just like a subtle flaws that like you can't put your finger on, but like they add something to it. Okay, so this is looking pretty awesome, but you'll notice that it's not quite looking right. And the reason is because we have this grain going around the side. We have the fists actually have a slight color to them. And then we also kind of have a grain in the center that you can kind of subtly see. Oh, let's change this to inline too. So I'm going to show you how to do all that right now. So first let's get this, use the Comrade inline. There we go. Okay, so here is something very interesting and cool. So we have these fists black and white, but actually we want to color them. So first we're going to get our colors off here, and you could go look at your inspiration and find the colors, but I'm just going to capture them right off here. So I'll pick a color, and here's the darkest color, and then I'll get kind of a medium color, and then I'll get like a super light color, the lightest color I can find in the sample image. You know, actually, I'm just going to go with white and see what happens. Okay, so on top of this, we're going to create an adjustment layer of a gradient map. And as you can see, it automatically makes everything red. So we need to create a clipping mask saying, hey, we just want this mask to work on this folder called fists. So we'll go to Layer, create clipping mask. And as you can see, that automatically just made it affect the fists. And here's the property of the gradient map. And I'll click on that. Click on this color, and then I'm going to select my darkest color, paste it in here, and then here, I'm going to paste that same color in, and then I'm going to kind of work my way back to like a lighter color. Like we want to keep, no, I think I like that better. See, I'm playing around with the colors here, kind of seeing what I actually end up preferring. Okay, so we got that. And then we have this medium color, so we're just going to click here and add this medium in, and it's just going to add a little more dimension to our colors. So, okay, let's kind of compare to what we have going on there. Okay, so we're pretty close on that. As you can see, proportions are all like slightly different, and that's because we're making it a second time, so it's not going to be exactly the same. Okay, so here's the really fun part. I'm going to make a layer here, and then I'm going to get the rectangle marquee tool, and around the edge here, I'm just going to select the whole thing, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say stroke. And then I'm going to borrow this stroke that I had gotten from sampling for the gradients. And other colors, I'm going to place that in, and I have it at 30 pixels. Maybe we'll make it 40. This is a pretty big canvas. And then deselect, and then I'm going to do filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and add that, and you can see it kind of brings this, I'm losing the word right now, but you know what I'm talking about. And I'm setting that to linear burn, so it matches in and kind of creates this really nice color with it. And I'm doubling up on it and then lowering the opacity because I decided I want it to be a little more intense. And then we'll select these two layers and merge them together so we're not dealing with two different layers of this. And essentially we just intensified that color by doing that. Add the linear burn again. Okay, so that looks pretty cool, but here's where it gets really cool. So we go to filters, noise, add noise, make sure you have it set to Gaussian, monochromatic, because we don't want to add any color in. And I have it totally blown up at 400% right here. Say okay. And as you can see now around the edge, we have this graininess. Now the last step is we want to add one more layer like that where we add graininess to the whole top of this image. So we'll add another layer, actually no. So then we're going to go to here and we're going to select solid color. and my gut is telling me, and this is the kind of thing you will like kind of like get a feel for this. You're like, oh, my gut tells me I should do this. So my gut's telling me I want a little more saturated color here. Oh, but I guess this is going to be monochromatic, so it actually doesn't matter. Okay, never mind, I was wrong about that. So I'll just pick that color. It doesn't really matter because we're going to go here and we're going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, and you can rasterize or convert to Smart Object. I'll just convert to a Smart Object. Monochromatic. Let's see what Uniform does. I'm just curious. Actually, kind of like this Uniform. We'll try this. I can't decide. No, I like the Uniform better. Okay, so I'll press Uniform. And then we're going to do a linear burn. And whoa, we get this crazy intense effect on top. So we're going to just lighten that up by lowering the opacity. We want this just enough so we can see it. So maybe like, I don't know, we'll keep it at like 30%. And if you zoom in now, everything has this nice texture to it. So that is how we create a constructivist propaganda-inspired poster. Hope this gave you some ideas and inspired you. Thank you so much for watching.